My mom didn't start the conversation with, "How are you?" She opened with, "You're going to withdraw from Harvard this semester." No build-up, no small talk, just a decision she'd already made for me. I was sitting on my dorm bed with my laptop balanced on a pile of laundry when she said it, and for a second, I honestly thought I'd misheard her. I'd spent my whole life trying to be the low-maintenance kid. Good grades, no drama, scholarships so she wouldn't have to worry. My sister was the one always on the edge of some new crisis. So hearing my mom say, calmly, like it was obvious, that I should be the one to leave school because my sister had failed out of hers, it felt like the floor shifted a few inches to the left. "She needs a chance to reset," my mom said, like we were trading shifts at a part-time job. "You can go back next year. Harvard will still be there. Your sister doesn't have anything." I remember staring at the little green light on my screen, at the lagging video of her face, and realizing she really meant it. This wasn't one of those guilt trip speeches you grow up with in a tight family. This was an ultimatum. Pick your degree or pick your family. I said no. Not dramatically, not with some big speech. Just no. I wasn't dropping out. I thought that would be the start of a long fight, a messy compromise, maybe some cold calls for a few weeks. Instead, it was the last normal conversation we ever had. I didn't know yet that saying no that day would get me pushed out of my own house, or that years later, when my mom was sitting in a hospital waiting room asking me to help save her life, those exact words would be the only thing I could think about. If you want to know how I got from that dorm room to that waiting room, and why I answered her the way I did, you're going to have to hear the whole story. Before that call, before "withdraw from Harvard" became a phrase I couldn't hear. Without flinching, my life was split between two very different versions of home. There was the actual house in Los Angeles, a rented one-story place in a neighborhood where you could hear other people's arguments through thin walls on hot nights. And there was the idea of home my mom kept selling to herself and everybody else. Loud, close, loyal, the kind of family that always sticks together, even when sticking together mostly meant pretending things were fine. I'm Ava, 19, first in my family to make it to a school anyone outside our zip code has heard of. And the only reason I ever even thought about Harvard was because a teacher in 11th grade circled a grade on my test and said, "You know kids from here can go to places like that too, right?" My mom, Karen, loved telling people I was the smart one in the family, but it was more like she was bragging about a scratch-off ticket she'd bought that turned out to be a winner. My sister, Brooke, was different. She was older, louder, the kind of person who could walk into a room full of strangers and walk out with three new best friends and a free drink. For a long time, my mom called her "my wild child" with this half-exasperated, half-proud tone, like it was a personality trait, not something that could blow up in our faces later. Brooke tried college once, community college, classes that started later in the morning so she didn't have to give up her nights. She dropped out after a year and a half with a few credits, a lot of stories, and this deep, burning embarrassment that came out sideways as jokes. After that, she bounced between jobs: server at a sports bar, front desk at a gym, some influencer's assistant for about 3 chaotic weeks. And somewhere in there, when money was short and tips were bad, she found online gambling. At first, it blended in with everything else she did on her phone. A notification here, a flashy app icon there. I thought it was just another game. She'd shove the screen in my face at the kitchen table. "Look," she'd say, grinning, "I just won $50 while you were doing calculus." There were bright animations, confetti, fake coins raining down. What she didn't show me were the losses in between. I only started to realize how serious it was when little things in the house changed. The rainy day jar my mom kept on top of the fridge was suddenly empty. The power bill sat unopened on the counter longer than usual. I caught Brooke snapping at my mom when she asked about gas money. this sharp, desperate tone I hadn't heard from her before. My mom worked as a manager at a mid range clothing store in a strip mall off the freeway. It was the kind of job that required her to smile more than she wanted to, stand longer than her feet could handle, and come home with just enough energy to eat, watch half an episode of something, and fall asleep in front of the TV. She talked about money in the way people talk about the weather, constantly, but like it was something happening to her, not something she had any say in. "I'm just trying to keep us afloat," she'd say, stirring a pot of pasta. "Once Brooke's on her feet, once you graduate, things will get easier." There was a college fund once, not a huge one, just a chunk of savings my mom had started when I was a kid. She liked to mention it in front of other parents, how she was putting a little away every month, even if it kills me. When I got into Harvard, that account suddenly became less theoretical. The financial aid office did more than I'd expected, but there were still gaps. Plane tickets, books, basic living costs. My mom filled some of those gaps from that fund and made a point of reminding me. "That money could have gone toward a new car, you know," she'd say, half joking, "or a vacation I'll never take." But she'd also tuck $50 bills into my hand when she dropped me at the airport, saying, "Get yourself something that isn't noodles once in a while." The night before I left for Cambridge, she threw a small get-together. Family, a few neighbors, some of Brooke's friends who treated it like an excuse to drink by the pool. There was a string of paper lanterns sagging over the backyard, a tray of Costco cupcakes, a Bluetooth speaker doing its best against the sound of traffic. People hugged me, told me to stay humble, to remember where you came from. My mom got misty-eyed when someone asked her how she felt. "Proud," she said, squeezing my shoulder. "Lucky." Brooke, already a drink and a half in, just laughed and added, "We'll see if she still remembers us when she's all Ivy League and married to some guy named Chad." It was a joke, but there was an edge to it. That edge got sharper once I actually got to Harvard. At first, Brooke's messages were supportive in her own way. "Send dorm pics. Do they really make you read that much? Please tell me someone there is hot." But slowly, they changed. When I texted her about being stressed for midterms, she replied, "Must be nice for that to be your biggest problem." When I mentioned my work-study job at the library, she wrote, "I've already worked more hours this week than you will all month. But sure, tell me again how tired you are." Around the same time, the gambling app notifications started lighting up her phone more often. She didn't hide them, just shrugged and said, "It's fine. I know when to stop," in the same voice people use when they absolutely do not know when to stop. I'd call home from the dorm common room, trying to catch up, and half the conversation would be my mom talking about how hard Brooke was working, how the tips weren't fair, how the world was rigged against her generation. Then my mom would pivot, almost in the same breath, to telling me not to forget to have fun, not to burn out, not to turn into one of those people who only cares about their career. It always left me with this odd, hollow feeling, like no matter what I did, I was a little bit wrong. When my app, a small, clunky health tool I'd been building for a class, won a campus competition and came with a modest grant and a boosted financial aid package, I called my mom as soon as I left the auditorium. I could hear the store sounds in the background, beeping scanners, hangers scraping metal rods, muffled pop music. "They're giving you more money?" she asked over the noise. "Like, actual money?" "Some of it goes straight to tuition," I explained. "Some is a stipend, and they want to connect me with an alum who works in healthcare. It's a big deal." She let out this long breath, half relief, half calculation. "That's great, baby," she said. "Every dollar helps. Maybe now I can stop robbing Peter to pay Paul." She laughed, but it wasn't really a joke. I thought that was the end of it. I didn't realize that conversation planted a seed in her head. The idea that my education wasn't just my future, it was also a resource. something that could be moved around on a mental spreadsheet labeled Family Survival. While I was in Cambridge worrying about passing algorithms, she was in LA listening to Brooke talk about One Last Shot. The bar where Brooke worked had changed owners. She hated the new manager, said he was killing the vibe, that she and a couple of bartenders could run the place better in their sleep. We just need capital, Brooke told her, according to what my mom would say later. We know the crowd, we know what sells. We're doing all the work anyway. Why not do it for ourselves? My mom had always wanted something of her own. She'd joke about it when she came home with sore feet, kicking off her shoes in the doorway. If I ever get out of retail, she'd say, I'm opening a place where I make the rules for once. So when Brooke started talking about taking over a small spot near Sunset, my mom didn't see risk. She saw an exit ramp, a way to stop clocking in for other people. By the time she called me with her plan, she wasn't improvising. She had numbers printed, half-understood projections, and a story she'd told herself enough times that it almost sounded reasonable. I didn't know any of that during that first conversation in my dorm. All I knew was she was suddenly talking about my enrollment like it was a flexible subscription, something we could pause and resume whenever life got tight. The ultimatum came later, after I pushed back, after I reminded her, probably with more sharpness than she expected, that my scholarship had conditions, that my financial aid depended on me staying full-time, that just take a year off wasn't neutral advice for someone in my position. Still, even with all the tension building under the surface, I didn't think she'd actually follow through. I thought she'd cool down, complain to her friends, maybe guilt-trip me in group texts for a while. I underestimated how scared she was, and how much of that fear she'd already transferred onto me without ever saying it out loud. When you grow up in a household where money is always almost enough but never quite, desperation doesn't arrive with sirens. It shows up as practical decisions that make less and less sense the closer you look. By the time my mom told me to withdraw from Harvard for just a semester so we could pull together as a family, she wasn't picturing me throwing my life away. In her head, she was redistributing resources. In my head, she was asking me to gamble my entire future on my sister finally not screwing up the next thing. Neither of us said it that clearly then. We should have. Maybe it wouldn't have changed anything. Maybe the collision was inevitable. But when she drew that line, Harvard on one side, family on the other, that wasn't the moment everything went bad. It was just the first time she said out loud what had been true for a long time. In our house, love and sacrifice were so tangled up that saying no felt like betrayal. I just didn't know yet how high the price of saying yes would have been, or how far she was willing to go when I refused to pay it. The thing about a sentence like, "You can withdraw this semester," is that it doesn't explode right away. It just sits there in your head while you go back to pretending your life is normal. After that call, I went to class the next morning like nothing had happened. I took notes. I nodded along when a professor made a bad joke. I went to my work-study shift in the library and shelved books for 2 hours, hands moving automatically while my brain replayed my mom's voice on a loop. She didn't call back that night, or the night after. When we finally talked again, it was about something stupid. She texted me a picture of a shirt from her store. Employee discount. Do you want this one for interviews? Like the whole Harvard ultimatum had been a weird dream we'd both had and decided not to mention. I answered like I was supposed to. Sure. Looks nice. Thanks. For a few weeks, everything slid into this uncomfortable in-between. We didn't talk about me dropping out. She didn't bring up the bar idea directly, but there were cracks if you looked closely. Little comments about how expensive groceries had gotten, how Brooke's hours at work were cut, how the landlord was being dramatic about rent being late. I'd ask, "Are you okay?" And she'd always say, "We're fine. Just tired. Work hard, right?" That was her favorite phrase when things were clearly not fine. Money had always been tight, but now it felt like the walls were inching in. I saw it in the way she talked about the college fund, too. It went from your college money to that little cushion we have to what's left in that account in a matter of months. I noticed, but I didn't know what to do with that feeling. It wasn't like I could fly home on a random Tuesday and audit her finances. The first real sign that something had shifted came when I tried to book a ticket home for Thanksgiving. I was hunched over my laptop in the dorm common room, comparing flight prices, trying to find something that didn't eat the entire balance of my checking account. Even the cheapest option was a stretch. I called my mom, expecting the usual conversation where she'd complain about prices and then say, "Don't worry, I'll cover half. We'll make it work." Instead, when I told her the amount, she let out this short, annoyed laugh. "Ava, I can't do that right now," she said. "Do you know how much I'm juggling over here?" I hesitated. "I thought we were setting aside money for travel." You said, "Yeah, well, that was before the rent went up and the car needed repairs and your sister's hours got cut." She snapped. "I'm doing the best I can. If you want to come home, figure it out. You're the genius, remember?" The word genius didn't sound like a compliment. It sounded like a charge she was filing against me. I did the math in my head while she kept talking. If I bought the ticket, I'd be down to nearly nothing. No cushion for textbooks next semester. No random emergencies. Just vibes and instant noodles. "Maybe I'll stay here this year," I said quietly. "Lots of people don't go home for Thanksgiving. The dining hall is doing a dinner. It could be fine." There was a pause on the line, a small silence that felt heavier than all the shouting from our previous fight. "Wow," she said finally. "First semester at Harvard and you're already too good for Thanksgiving with your family." "That's not what I said," I protested. "I just don't want to put us in a worse spot." "Flights are expensive, Mom, and you literally just said you can't help." "I said I'm tired," she shot back. "I said I'm doing my best. But you hear what you want? It's been 3 months and already you talk like you're visiting from another planet." I swallowed hard. "I'm trying to be practical." "You're trying to make excuses," she said. "Fine. Stay there. Stay. Enjoy your fancy, sad little campus dinner. Just remember who held everything together so you could be there in the first place." We hung up without saying, "I love you." Thanksgiving came and went. My roommate went home. The campus got quiet in that eerie way big buildings do when there aren't enough people in them. I ate turkey that tasted like it had been cooked by committee, laughed at a movie with a couple other students who were stuck there too, and tried not to think about the empty chair at our table back home with my name on it. After that, the tone of our conversations never went back to what it had been. They got shorter, more transactional. My mom asked about grades, but not about what I was learning. She asked if I'd found any side gigs, followed by half jokes about how we could use a successful startup founder in the family. Every mention of money came with a small twist, a reminder that my education was not just mine in her mind. Brooke's messages went from snarky to oddly quiet. Every once in a while, she'd send a picture from some bar, a blurry crowd, a neon sign, with a caption like, "Another night, send caffeine," or, "If you want to switch lives for a week, I'm ready." At 2 in the morning, her time there would be long voice notes, the kind you can tell were recorded after a drink or three. Sometimes she was nostalgic. "Remember when we used to sneak cereal at midnight and watch trash TV?" Sometimes she was resentful. "Must be nice to have people handing you money to study while the rest of us actually work." Once, just once, she sounded small. "I thought I'd be further along by now," she said in a shaky voice. "Don't tell Mom I said that." I didn't. It was the closest she ever got to admitting things weren't working. A few weeks later, I woke up to an email from the bank. Low balance alert. I frowned, rolled over, and opened the app. The shared savings account my mom had opened years ago, the one that still had a few thousand in it last time I checked, was down to almost nothing. Not zero, but close enough that my stomach dropped. There were several withdrawals listed over the past month: rent, utilities, a payment to a place I didn't recognize, then another that definitely matched the name of a service bar vendor's use. I stared at the numbers until they blurred. Then I called my mom. This time she picked up on the first ring. "Hey, you seen the new pictures I sent from the store?" she asked. "We got this horrible shipment of neon sweaters. I swear someone in corporate hates me." "Did you empty the savings?" I cut in. There was a pause. "Not long, just long enough." "I used what we needed," she said. "What do you mean we?" I asked. "That money was for school. You said that was for school." "School is paid for," she shot back. "You told me that yourself. Scholarships, grants, whatever. Meanwhile, rent is due now. Groceries are due now. Your sister had a slow month. I got fewer hours because they're cutting shifts. Life doesn't wait for you to finish your degree, Ava." "You could have told me," I said, hearing my voice go thin. "You could have asked." "Asked what?" she snapped. "Asked if it was okay to keep a roof over our heads? You'd have said yes, and then gone to your little budgeting spreadsheet and had a panic attack. I spared you that." "You didn't spare me anything," I said. "You just made the decision for me. Again." "Oh my God. Not everything is about your autonomy," she said, the word clumsy in her mouth. "Sometimes adults have to make hard choices. I didn't blow it on purses and vacations. I used it to keep this family from sinking." "By using the only safety net I had," I replied. "By using the thing that was supposed to make sure I didn't have to drop out if something went wrong." "Nothing's gone wrong," she insisted. "We're just stretched thin. You're acting like I stole from a stranger. It's my account, too. I put that money there. I can move it if I need to." Legally, she was right. Emotionally, it felt like standing in front of an open door and watching someone pack up your stuff without asking. "So, where does it stop?" I asked quietly. "If I get another grant, is that for the family too? If I pick up more shifts, is that just more proof I can handle losing support?" "You're twisting this," she snapped. "You always do this when you're scared. You act like I'm the villain. I am trying to make this work for all of us. You're up there at the nicest school in the country because I didn't give up when things got hard. You think I had anyone to lean on when I was 19? I think you're so used to surviving that you don't notice when you're stepping on me to do it," I said. There was a long silence. I could hear traffic through her car window, the faint beep of a checkout scanner somewhere. When she spoke again, her voice was flat. "If you're going to talk to me like I'm some kind of thief, maybe we need to take a break from these conversations. Focus on your big, important life. We'll figure ours out." "I never said you were a thief," I protested. "I said I felt blindsided." "Same difference," she said. "You made your choice, Ava. You stayed there. You picked that. So don't call me from your dorm room and act shocked that the rest of us are making choices too." That was the last real conversation we had. After that, my calls went to voicemail more often. When she did pick up, it was surface level. Weather. Work. "You sound busy, I won't keep you." The family group chat kept going without me. I knew because one day I opened my messages and realized I hadn't seen a notification from it in weeks. When I scrolled, it was gone. I didn't need to ask what happened. Someone had removed me. Maybe my mom. Maybe my sister. Maybe both. My number still technically worked, but the line between us had gone quiet in a way that felt more permanent than any dramatic hang-up. I didn't find out she'd also locked me out of my old room until much later, when a neighbor mentioned they'd helped her move boxes into your space and asked when I was coming home to see the changes. I smiled and lied and said, "Soon." even though I already knew that whatever home used to be had clicked shut behind me. It wasn't cinematic. There was no single slammed door, no shouted, "You are dead to me." Just a series of small practical decisions that added up to one truth. If I wanted to stay in school, I was on my own. So I leaned into the only thing I still had control over. I picked up an extra shift at the library. I started taking small freelance projects, nothing glamorous, a clunky scheduling tool for a local clinic, a script to clean up patient survey data for a grad student drowning in spreadsheets. I kept tweaking the little health app I'd built for class, not because I thought it would change the world, but because it made me feel like I was building something that belonged to me. Every once in a while, when the ache got too loud, I'd open my messages and hover over my mom's name. I'd picture her at the kitchen table, rubbing her temples with one hand, phone face down beside a stack of bills. I'd think about calling and saying, "Let's start over," offering to send what little I had left. Then I'd remember the empty savings account, the plane ticket she couldn't help me buy, the way she'd said, "You made your choice," like I'd walked away from a party, not from a burning building she'd lit herself. In the end, I always did the same thing. I locked my phone, put it face down on the desk, and opened my laptop instead. If there was no one left to catch me, I was going to have to get very good at building my own net. Summer crept up on me while I was busy pretending everything was fine. Finals, project deadlines, those weird half-goodbye conversations you have in hallways when people are packing up for internships, that all blurred together. I told people I wasn't going home because it was too expensive to fly, which was true, but not the whole truth. The real reason was that I could feel something waiting for me in Los Angeles, and I wasn't ready to walk straight into it. My mom solved that problem for me. She decided to come to me instead. She didn't tell me she was flying out. She just texted one morning, "Are you on campus?" And 20 minutes later, she was standing outside the science building, squinting up at the stone like she was trying to decide if it impressed her. She looked more tired than the last time I'd seen her. A little thinner. There were faint gray strands at her temples I didn't remember. But when she hugged me, it was the same tight, familiar grip that used to make me feel like nothing bad could happen as long as she had a hand on my back. For a second, I almost forgot we were in the middle of something. We walked to a coffee shop just off campus because she refused to let me pay the absurd cafeteria prices. "I didn't fly all the way here to drink $8 coffee," she said, rolling her eyes. "I want somewhere normal." We sat at a small table by the window. She watched students hurry past in hoodies and headphones, her eyes tracking the logos on their sweatshirts. "Does everyone here walk that fast?" she asked. "Feels like they're all late for something." "That's kind of the vibe," I said. "Constantly 10 minutes behind." She smiled a little at that, but it faded when the drinks arrived and there was nothing left between us but steam and silence. "So," she said, stirring sugar into her cup without looking at me, "I've been thinking a lot since we last talked." My stomach tightened. I knew where this was going. "About the savings?" I asked carefully. "About everything," she said. "About Brooke. About you. About this." She gestured vaguely at the building, the campus, my whole life. I probably didn't say things right on the phone. That was as close to an apology as she was willing to get, but it was enough to make my chest ache. I just, "I need you to hear me out before you decide I'm some monster." There it was, the word she thought I was using for her. "Okay," I said. "I'm listening." She took a breath, the kind people take before they jump into cold water. "Your sister is not built like you," she started. "You've been carrying yourself since you were, what, 12? You got yourself into this place. You figure out scholarships, jobs, whatever. You land on your feet. Brooke doesn't. When she screws up, she hits concrete." "That's not my responsibility," I said, more gently than I felt. "I know," my mom replied, surprising me. On paper, it's not, but in real life, it is all of ours. She's family. When one of us sinks, we all get pulled under. That's just how it works. She told me about the last few months in LA, how the landlord had threatened eviction twice, how the power company had started sending pink notices, how Brooke's bar job had turned into something more tenuous and weird, with new owners cutting hours and asking employees to invest in events. She got in deeper with those apps, my mom said quietly. I didn't realize how bad it was. I saw her playing, but I don't know what I thought. That she'd grow out of it, like a phase. She said phase in this small, ashamed voice, like she knew it sounded ridiculous. She started borrowing, my mom went on. First it was from me, then from friends, then from people you don't want to owe. When I found out how much, I almost threw up. And the thing is, she's not evil, Ava. She's not sitting there thinking, how do I ruin everyone's life today? She's just stuck and scared and bad at being scared. So you decided to fix it, I said. Like you always do. What do you want me to say? She snapped, then rubbed her forehead like she regretted it. Yes, I decided to fix it. I found a way that didn't involve her ending up God knows where with people we don't want her near. There's a guy who wants to sell his place. Small bar over near Hollywood. Good location. Loyal regulars. He's getting divorced. He wants out. He's willing to sell cheap if we take over the lease and some of his debt. It's a mess, but it's workable. Mom, I said slowly, owning a bar is not a rehab plan. It's a job, she said. It's a structure. She's good with people. She knows the business side. She could run the front. I could handle the books. We bring in one partner who knows what they're doing, and we turn this around. It's not glamorous, but it's ours. I could see it, the version of the future she'd built in her head. Her name on a lease instead of a schedule. Brooke laughing behind a bar she actually owns. Some version of me dropping by on holidays, proud of the family business. And where do I fit in? I asked. She met my eyes. You know where, she said quietly. We can't do it without capital. The bank laughed at us. I don't have anything left to borrow against. Your sister's credit is wrecked. The only asset we have that anyone cares about is you. I'm not an asset, I said. I'm a person. You're both, she shot back. You're my kid, and you're a walking success story that opens doors. You have grant money, stipends, connections. You have an acceptance letter with a name on it that makes people sit up straighter. You could take a leave. Just a year. You could come home, help us get this off the ground, put some stability under us. Then you go back and finish. You'll still be the girl from Harvard. They're not going to forget about you because you took time off for your family. That's not how it works, I said. My financial aid is built on me being full-time. My visa, my housing, everything is tied to being here. I leave. I might not get back in. And even if I do, I'd be starting over from behind. You're 19, she said, like that was the answer to everything. You have time. Your sister doesn't. I work 40, 50 hours a week, and I still fall asleep doing math on the back of receipts. I can't hold this together by myself anymore. I need help. Real help. Not just phone calls and, I'm proud of you, Mom. The words landed like little stones. I could hear the fear under them, the anger too, but mostly just exhaustion. It would have been easier if she'd come in villain mode, if she'd screamed and blamed and made it simple to hate her. Instead, she sat there in a cheap cafe chair looking like someone whose life had been slowly squeezing inward for so long she couldn't tell where the pressure was coming from anymore. You're asking me to gamble my one way out, I said softly, on the same person who's already proven she can't handle the money she has. I'm asking you to trust us, she said, to trust me, to believe that if we get one solid shot, we won't blow it. I didn't raise you alone just for you to turn your back when it's not convenient. I swallowed the lump in my throat. You didn't raise me alone, I said. I was there too. I worked. I studied. I kept my head down. I did my part. And now I'm asking you to do more, she said. Because you can. Because you're strong enough. Because your sister isn't. We sat in silence for a moment, the low buzz of other people's conversations filling the space between us. I thought about the nights studying by the glow of my laptop while she closed the store, the college fund she'd chipped away at for years, the way she'd bragged about me to anyone who would listen. I also thought about the empty account, the sudden shift from your money to our money, the way she'd made decisions for me without telling me until after they were done. I wanted to be the kind of daughter who says yes. I wanted to be the person who could somehow fix everything with one big sacrifice and never resent it. But I could see the future she was describing, and it didn't end with me sliding neatly back into my dorm a year later like nothing happened. It ended with me stuck in LA, degree half finished, resume weirdly lopsided, explaining to future employers why I'd left one of the best schools in the country to run a bar that might not even survive long enough to put on my LinkedIn. I'm not withdrawing, I said finally. Not for a semester. Not for a year. I'm sorry things are hard. I am. But this, I gestured between us, between Cambridge and LA, between possibility and panic. This is the one thing I've ever had that isn't built on denial. I can't give that up. I won't. My mom stared at me like she was trying to see if I was bluffing. When she realized I wasn't, something in her face closed off. You know what hurts the most? She said. It's not that you're saying no. It's that you don't even sound conflicted. I am conflicted, I said. I just don't think my conflict should cost me my future. Your future doesn't mean much if your family falls apart. She shot back. You're going to sit in your little fancy classes and pretend you don't know we're drowning? I've been drowning since you emptied that account without telling me, I said, more sharply than I intended. You just